Okay, rant for today is a goldfish rant. I'm not gonna sell goldfish anymore, and that seems just so crazy to me. As a fish store owner that has sold goldfish forever, because they're goldfish and they're one of the most common, easier fish that you can take care of. But it's gotten absolutely crazy. So when I started selling goldfish, I was carrying cheap, fancy goldfish for like $1, $5 goldfish, $10 goldfish, $30 goldfish. It went through the whole spectrum, and also sold feeder goldfish. It got to the point where I was having multiple people come in per day to buy feeder goldfish as pets, which I don't typically have an issue for, except that the feeder goldfish, you sell them for 25 cents or less, which means that if I'm bagging up 4 goldfish, I'm making $1, which means in reality I'm making 50 cents. And if someone wants to choose which specific fish they want, that just economically does not make sense. If I'm spending 30 minutes to make 50 cents, I can't do that, unfortunately. But in addition, people keep buying feeder goldfish as pets, which again I don't have an issue with. I kept my feeder goldfish in my main tanks. It costs a little bit more. They're guaranteed healthy. I medicate them. I make sure they're top quality specimens if you're going to feed them to your other fish or keep them as a pet. But people would call me out on my 1 week guarantee. 1 week guarantees, do not apply to fish that are meant to be fed to other fish. Those unfortunately, you're buying a fish that's meant to die, essentially, for a better cause, but or for a cause at least. But I can't guarantee a fish that, again, I'm losing money selling to begin with, just because it doesn't make sense selling them by time. So I stopped carrying feeder goldfish. But the bigger issue is that the people that were buying them would buy them. They'd throw them in a half-gallon vase or 16-ounce mason jar. They wouldn't feed them. They wouldn't do water changes. The fish would die in a couple days because goldfish are extremely dirty fish. They don't have a very effective digestive system because they're used to eating lots of kind of leftovers. They're kind of like cows. You eat a lot of low-nutrient food. You poop it out. You eat a lot more. So even if you feed them a higher nutrient food, they're still just eating, pooping. It's a very fast system. They make a lot of waste. They're in no means meant to be kept in a small jar. That's the craziest thing ever, and I know that it's been going on for since the 20s or something, or even longer. That you can put a goldfish in a jar that's unfiltered, unheated, and that's okay. But that's not okay. They're one of the dirtiest fish. They get huge. That's a bad environment. Everything about that is bad. And so, I was having people coming in and buying 6 goldfish, putting it in a little tiny jar. They'd kill them. They'd come in. They'd demand a refund. And it just kept happening weekly, week after week after week. So I stopped carrying feeder goldfish. Started doing with the $1 goldfish. Stopped doing that. Stopped carrying $1 goldfish. The most expensive fish I would sell, or the cheapest goldfish I would sell, would be a fancy $5 goldfish. Hoping that people would invest in a bigger tank, invest in more, invest in a filtration system, or at least do some water changes. If you're not going to do a filter, which I really think that you absolutely need for a goldfish, if nothing else, do water changes, frequent, often, big water changes to dilute that ammonia, that nitrite that's just accumulating, that's not being broken down because you don't have a filter. Nope, didn't happen. I have the same issue. At this point, those are guaranteed fish. I was replacing them, every few days for people that they'd bring their water in, and then the water would be 5 parts per million ammonia, and on the nitrate scale, it'd be, you'd be looking at like over 10. Like literally, when you add the drops, and it's supposed to be nice, clear, light blue, and it instantly goes to the darkest purple you've ever seen. Same thing with nitrate, and I'd go, look, you need to fix this. Do you want to fix this? No, I'm not going to fix it. I just want my free fish. I'm going to throw it in the exact same environment. It's going to die. I don't care. It's cheap. You're going to replace it. So, yeah, I'm not carrying goldfish. Not any, not even the $30 ones, because what's crazy is that I keep bumping up the price of them, hoping people will suddenly start caring about the health of their fish, and they don't. So yeah, that bums me out. There's some cool goldfish. I wouldn't say I'm a huge goldfish fan, but I definitely appreciate them, and I definitely appreciate the nice ones, and especially like the nice, beautiful pandas that are starting to come out. Like they're gorgeous fish. But it's nuts. It's nuts. I'm sorry. You cannot have a goldfish in a tiny, tiny, tiny jar or tiny, 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 less than 1 gallon bowl. Never do a water change. Either not feed them at all or overfeed them, and typically one or the other. It's not feeding them appropriately. Without a filter, without a heater, without anything, and hope that they're going to do well. And it's crazy because I get people and they come in and they go, well, when I was, back in the day when I was 10 years old, I had a goldfish in a jar and it lasted a year. And it's like, you know what? I do believe that, because when I was a kid, I had a goldfish that lasted a long time. And the reason that it lasted a long time is because I never fed it. I was a kid. I was like 10 years old or 7 or something, and I ignored my pet and I abused it and I didn't feed it and I didn't do water changes. But because I wasn't feeding it, it didn't matter so much that I wasn't doing water changes, and it was stunted in growth, and it didn't grow more than 1.5 inches in the 6-month period, which is absolutely atypical. I'm sorry, but even your cheapest feeder goldfish should be growing big. Feeder goldfish, I can't. I'm holding my camera with one hand, but they should be big. You're looking way bigger than this for a feeder goldfish after 6 months if you're taking care of it well. So, when you say that you've had a feeder goldfish for 4 years and it's still this big, well, I'm sorry, but you've done something horribly wrong to that fish. So yeah, that's my rant. I don't carry goldfish anymore, and that's why. And I think it's sad, but I think it also kind of points out a lot of problems with, I'd say, the biggest problems with how people think of fish care, which is just that it's not an animal. You don't have to care. It's okay if you kill it, and you can just replace it for cheap. That's a sad, sad perspective on fish, and I don't want to encourage that. And so yeah, I'm not going to go goldfish anymore. And if you want any of my other fish, I'm going to require a filter and a heater. They're all tropical. So, would love your opinions on that. I don't know. Do you think that you can keep a goldfish in a 1 gallon tank? I would debate that heavily. From the bottom of my heart, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't care if it's a cheap fish. I don't care if you're going to feed it to someone else and you think you're saving it by putting it in a tiny environment like that. That's not decent. So yep, that's my rant for today. Hope your guys' tanks are doing well. Hope your fish are doing well. Have a great day. Bye.